It is time for a chat with Pat Odie Murray, and she's talking with Pat Odie Murray.
We're in the season of preparing for All Saints Day and All Souls Day, and what does that all mean, right? And I came across an article in Catholic Exchange called Padre Pio, Purgatory, and the Plenary Indulgences for the Holy Souls. A lot of people have trouble with the concept of purgatory. Part of it is because so many people think of it as like a mini hell, and it's not. I always love Pope Benedict's concept of the afterlife because he talks about them as states of being. And I like that because we, with our mere mortal minds, think in time and space because that's where we exist. We exist in time and space. We talk about a past, a present, a future. We talk about getting from here to there, right? All of these different things. But one of the things I think that is important for us to understand is when we talk about the afterlife, it's not bound by time and space. So it's kind of hard for us to wrap our head around. So when we talk about how many days in purgatory, well, that's a human way of understanding because God doesn't necessarily think in days, right? So I liked Benedict's concept that these are states of being in the presence of God, being purified to be in the presence of God, and then rejecting God and not being in his presence. Now, I'm teaching theology of suffering, healing, and dying right now. And in my class, we talk a lot about the concept of, is there a difference between pain and suffering, right? So many people, I think about suffering as physical pain. And so I think kind of the views of hell and purgatory always had this physical component to it of being a physical pain. But when we talk about it in class, I always say to my students, if you could choose, right? If you could choose, would you choose a physical pain or would you choose suffering? And now that doesn't mean they're two very opposite things. Sometimes physical pain causes suffering. But sometimes physical pain is just physical pain. And, on the other side of it, you're going to be okay, right? I've broken numerous bones in my life, and it's been painful. But it was just pain. I can't say that I suffered. Now, when my mom died, when my husband died, I suffered. Physically, I was fine. I was in no pain, but I was suffering. So when we talk, and people, these heaven, hell, purgatory, these have been things that have been on the minds of humanity for a long time. And everybody has their different views and visions. But I think I want to talk a little bit about Padre Pio in this article, because I could just go on forever on some of the concepts that I've read and listened to around this concept of heaven, hell, and purgatory. But because purgatory is one of the things that a lot of people, and even Catholics, struggle with, but people that aren't Catholics really struggle with it. But I want to start kind of with this article, and it is written by Mara Roan McKeegan, if I said that correctly, and the Catholic Exchange. And I want to kind of start with her opening paragraph here. Some friars who lived in San Giovanni Rotunda with Padre Pio once heard a mysterious sound coming from the friary. It sounded, one of the friars said, like voices singing in beautiful harmony, but no one could find the source. Padre Pio was deep in prayer at that time, and someone approached him to ask him if he knew where the singing was coming from. Roused as if from a deep sleep, he answered, "Why are you all so surprised? They are the voices of angels who are taking souls from purgatory into paradise." I love that, right? To think of an angel choir singing as a soul comes into the presence of God. Just an amazing thing. And so Padre Pio, she goes on to say, Padre Pio was able not only to hear, but to see souls from the other world. At times, he was given the gift of knowing the eternal condition of those who had died. It is said that the widow of a man who died by suicide once inquired about the state of her husband's soul, and Padre Pio replied, "He's saved. Between the bridge and the river, he repented." Isn't that an amazing thing? That's what I mean. We never know what is in the last moments of a person's life. So to say someone is condemned to hell or whatever, I think, well, first of all, we can't say that because we don't know. We can't judge the soul. But I think we also know that God, he wants us to all be saved, but we have to cooperate with that, right? And even Padre Pio is pointing out to this woman who must have really been suffering, knowing this, that her husband took his life, a great gift from God. And she was worried about him. And so he said he's saved, right? Between the bridge and the river, he repented. And he also he had a special devotion to the souls in purgatory. I think a lot of times we forget about the souls in purgatory. In fact, some people just don't believe in it, so they don't even mess with it. They think, oh, you get right to heaven or hell. But like I said, it always made sense to me because I always thought, I don't think I'll ever die in a state of perfect grace, right? I mean, in the sense that I'm a sinful person, I don't know. So the idea is, I understand that if I am going to come into the presence of pure love, pure perfection, perfect love, that I need to be made perfect before I do that. So to me, that's what purgatory is about. And it might be painful because I have to admit all the stuff I did in my life and maybe even see things that I never took responsibility for. And that will cause me emotional pain. That will cause me suffering. So, but one of the things, so St. Pio was very much about the saints in purgatory. So I would ask you, and there's so much more in this article, but now I don't have time. But I would ask you to think about that. He actually had a gentleman who died in that very place when it was a poorhouse come to visit him and ask him for prayers so that he could leave purgatory, so he could be in the presence of God. And Pio had a mass for him the next day. These ideas of having mass for those who have gone before us is very important to us. I'll talk more about that at a future time. But if a loved one crosses your mind for some reason, or if you find out about someone who died in a way that, boy, you weren't expecting it, God's kind of pointing out to you, now might be a time to say a prayer for that person, or even better, have a mass said for them. On this Poor Souls Day, as we come up to it in the next week or so, may we pray for all of those, because they too will intercede for us.